I had my keys in the front door of my new house when a white Audi screeched to a halt behind me. A woman in a crisp blazer stepped out, pointed straight at me and said, "You can't live here. The HOA didn't approve you." I laughed, thought she was joking. Then she called the police. When I tell people that, most assume I'm embellishing. They think I'm adding extra drama, polishing the edges. But every piece of what you're about to read happened exactly as I remember it. No exaggeration. No missing scenes. It started the day I walked onto the property I'd inherited from my Uncle Walt. It was just after noon when our car rolled up the hill and onto the old gravel drive. Emily leaned forward in the passenger seat, her fingers curling around the edge of the dashboard. "Lucas," she whispered. "It's even prettier than I remembered." I had to admit she was right. The road curved gently up the slope, the kind of lazy bend that lets you take in the whole view. Tall pines framed the far edge of the lot, moving slowly in the wind. Sunlight slipped through in slanted golden bars that fell across the worn but sturdy porch. The house itself wasn't anything you'd see in a magazine. 2 stories with siding, age in all the corners. But it looked solid, honest, like a place that had been lived in, loved in, and simply paused for a while. Caleb was out of the car before the engine stopped ticking. 8 years old and running at full battery. He hit the ground and yelled, "Dibs on the room with the big window." Emily laughed, shaking her head the way she does when his imagination outruns reality. "Let your father open the place first, sweetheart." I walked to the front door with the key I'd been carrying for nearly 2 months. Long enough to imagine this moment 100 different ways. Out of habit, I thumbed through the folder under my arm one last time. Probate documents, title deed, county zoning confirmation, the tax parcel map with our lot circled in red. Everything said the same thing. Uncle Walt's land sat outside any subdivision lines. No HOA, no covenants, no architectural review board. Just acreage, a house, and a clean title. This wasn't just a home. It was freedom. No rules committee, no community standards, no anonymous letters about lawn height. Just us, the land, and the life we were going to build. I slid the key into the lock. That's when the tires screamed. A sharp, high screech cut into the quiet and snapped all 3 of us around. A white Audi shot up the drive and braked hard, sliding in behind our moving truck and blocking the way like a wedge. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out in a pale blue blazer and heels that clicked against gravel like she was walking onto a stage. Her hair and makeup were perfect. Her posture said she expected everyone present to be grateful she'd arrived. 2 men climbed out of the back. Broad shoulders, matching polo shirts with Silver Horizon Estates HOA Compliance Division stitched on the chest. They had the kind of too serious uniform that's designed to look official if you don't look closely. The woman strode halfway up the driveway and planted herself between me and my truck. "Excuse me," she called, voice cool and certain. "You can't be here without clearance." I stared at her, caught between confusion and annoyance. "I live here," I said. "Or I'm about to. I'm Lucas Wright." She frowned like the name itself offended her. "This property falls under the jurisdiction of the Silver Horizon Estates HOA. All move-ins must be pre-approved." I felt Emily come up beside me. "Lucas," she whispered. "What is she talking about?" I held up my folder. "This lot isn't in any HOA. It never has been. County zoning confirms it." The woman, who would later introduce herself as Karen Aldrich, didn't even glance at my paperwork. "That may have been true once," she said smoothly. "But we updated the boundaries in 23. This parcel is now within our authority." I stared at her. "Ma'am, you can't just redraw land lines because you feel like it." Her smile thinned. One of the compliance guys stepped forward, puffing his chest out a little. "We'll need to inspect the premises immediately," he said. Emily's hand closed around my arm. Caleb, who had been bouncing in place, went very still. "No," I said, voice steady. "You're trespassing. This is private property." Karen's eyes cooled. "Then I'll call the police," she replied. "We'll let them sort it out." And just like that, the first pebble started rolling down the mountain. She pulled out her phone with the ease of someone drawing a weapon she'd been itching to use all day. Her fingers moved fast, practiced, confident. Too confident. Emily leaned into me, voice barely above a breath. "Lucas, she's serious?" "Oh, she's serious," I murmured back. "And she's wrong. Or at least I thought she was." Karen didn't bother to lower her voice for the call. "Yes, hello? This is the HOA president for Silver Horizon Estates," she said. "I need officers dispatched to my location immediately. We have an unlawful occupancy." Unlawful occupancy. You'd think I'd tried to take over Fort Knox. I crossed my arms and leaned against a porch post, forcing my breathing to stay controlled. The compliance guys fanned out. One drifted toward the front corner of the house, the other toward the side yard, moving like they were conducting an inspection instead of treading on someone else's land. "Hey," I called. "You don't get to wander around my property. Stay put." The taller one turned his head just enough to show he'd heard me, but not enough to acknowledge me as an actual human. Karen snapped her fingers. "Gentlemen, stay within visual range." Visual range. Not something normal people say. Then she turned back to me with a polished, predatory smile. "Mr. Wright," she said, "the sooner you understand how our community operates, the smoother this transition will be." "There is no community here," I replied evenly. "Not this house. Not this lot. I checked the records myself." "Oh, I'm aware," she said, adjusting a sleeve that didn't need adjusting. "But the board voted to update our jurisdictional boundaries in late '23. This lot became part of Silver Horizon shortly after." Emily stepped forward, trying to keep her voice level. "Our realtor said this home wasn't in an HOA. The title search came back clean." Karen gave her a pitying little smile. "That's because the old boundaries were still on file. It takes time for county databases to catch up. Bureaucracy is slow." I stared at her. "Let me be sure I understand. Your HOA expanded onto private land that was never part of the development, without the owner's consent, and you're calling that legitimate?" She nodded like I just solved a quiz problem. "We do what's necessary to maintain standards." There it was. Standards. A great word for craftsmanship or personal integrity. A terrifying one in the mouth of someone like her. I pulled the color parcel map from my folder, the county stamp clear in the corner. "These are the official lines," I said. "They haven't changed." She didn't look down. "That map is outdated," she said. "No," I replied carefully. "It's the one the county is using right now." Karen gave a shallow shrug. "We'll let law enforcement sort it out." Behind us, Caleb tugged on Emily's sleeve. "Mom, what's happening?" She crouched and wrapped an arm around him. "It's okay, baby. Dad's just talking." Her voice sounded like it did in emergency rooms and during bad storms. Calm on the surface, tension underneath. The taller compliance officer spoke up. "Mrs. Aldrich, you want us to start the preliminary exterior review?" Karen nodded once. "Yes, document any nonconformities. I want a full report." I stepped in front of them. "No one is reviewing anything. Not an inch. You're all trespassing." Karen rolled her eyes. Really rolled them. "Mr. Wright," she sighed. "You're only making this harder." "For who?" I asked. "For you," she answered. A distant engine hum grew louder, then split into two. Blue and red lights flickered against the pines as two sheriff's cruisers came into view. Karen straightened, lifted her chin, and smiled like a queen greeting her guards. As the cruisers stopped and the doors opened, one thought ran through my head. Either this is about to be cleared up in a minute, or it's going to become the worst moving day in American history. When the deputies stepped out, something in my chest eased. Not relief, but hope. Hope that someone with real authority would shut this down. The older deputy looked to be late 40s, solid build, the easy balance of someone who'd seen every petty neighborhood drama and wasn't impressed by any of them. His partner was younger, leaner, hanging back a step, already surveying the scene. Karen briskly marched toward them. "Officers," she said brightly. "Thank you for coming so quickly. This man," she pointed at me like a prosecutor in a TV drama. and his family are attempting to unlawfully occupy protected HOA property. The older deputy took off his sunglasses and blinked slowly. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to take a breath and start from the beginning. Karen didn't take a breath. This parcel, she began, is under the jurisdiction of the Silver Horizon Estates Homeowners Association. These people moved in without board approval. We require all occupants to undergo compliance orientation before. I stepped forward. Officer, none of that is true. This land is not part of any HOA. I have the documents here. He turned to me, hands resting on his belt. All right, let me see what you've got. I handed him the binder. He went through it carefully, no eye rolls, no rush, just patient focus. Probate transfer, title deed, zoning confirmation, parcel map. Behind me, Caleb whispered, Mom, are we in trouble? No, sweetheart, Emily murmured, holding him close. We're okay. Dad's just talking. Her words said one thing, her tone another. After a long moment, the deputy closed the folder and nodded. Mr. Wright, these documents appear to be in order. Karen's mouth actually fell open. What do you mean appear to be in order? She demanded. Our updated jurisdiction map. She thrust her glossy binder toward him. He didn't take it. Ma'am, he said, HOA policies don't override county zoning. If the county says this home isn't part of your HOA, then it isn't. Color rose in Karen's cheeks, but her smile sharpened. You mean to tell me you refuse to enforce? We're not refusing anything, he cut in calmly. What we have here is a civil dispute, not a criminal one. We don't handle those. My stomach dropped. Wait, I said. So if she comes back tomorrow, next week, whenever she wants, that's civil too? You'll need to resolve it through the courts, he said. Courts, lawyers, hearings, months of stress. And Karen heard every word. Well, she said slowly, her smile spreading. Thank you for confirming that. The younger deputy finally spoke. If either party escalates, damages property, threatens anyone, then it becomes our problem. Until then, this stays civil. He wasn't rude, just matter of fact. But each word felt like another brick on my back. Karen folded her arms in a small, victorious shrug. Officers, appreciate your time. You've been very helpful. They gave me sympathetic looks. The older one leaned in slightly and lowered his voice. Keep records. Everything. Dates, photos, videos, conversations. If this goes further, you'll want it. That was the moment I realized he expected this to go further. Emily slipped her hand into mine. Lucas, what do we do now? I watched Karen slide into her Audi. The compliance officers followed. The engine revved once, sharp, before she rolled down the hill and disappeared. I don't know, I said, but whatever she thinks she's starting, she has no idea who she's dealing with. The truth was, I wasn't sure I knew either, and I had no idea how far she was willing to go. That first night should have been peaceful. We'd hauled in just enough boxes to make the place vaguely livable. Emily put together sandwiches. Caleb fell asleep in a heap of blankets on the living room floor. For a while, the house was quiet and familiar the way old wood houses get. Creaks, settling, soft wind in the pines. Just before 9, the quiet changed. It wasn't noise. It was the absence of it, an odd stillness that seemed to press against the windows. Even the breeze died. I stepped onto the porch, listening. 2 headlights glowed at the edge of the road, not moving toward us. Not leaving, just idling at the far end of the property like they were watching. At first I figured it was someone lost, checking directions. But the car just sat there. No interior light, no door opening, no window rolling down. After a minute, I pulled out my phone and started recording. It felt paranoid and necessary at the same time. A moment later, the car pulled away. Slowly, deliberately, like whoever was inside wanted me to mark their departure. When I went back in, Emily was waiting at the door. Was that her? She whispered. I don't know, I said, but the timing's awful. She glanced toward the blanket pile where Caleb lay curled beneath blue rockets and planets. I don't want him to be afraid. He won't, I said automatically. He won't even know. But kids always know when the air changes. An hour after they were asleep, I went back out. This time with a flashlight and the unnerving sense that I needed to check the edges of our world. I walked the fence line. Nothing broken. No footprints I could see. Then the beam of my flashlight caught plastic. A laminated sign hung from a tree, zip-tied tight. Temporary Community Oversight Zone Violators Subject 2 Fines Silver Horizon Estates HOA letterhead. Karen's signature. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a legal notice. It was a flag stuck into the ground of someone else's country. I ripped it down. Not out of rage exactly. Leaving it there felt like admitting something that wasn't true. The next morning, it got worse. I walked to the mailbox expecting a stack of change of address confirmations, mortgage notices, school forms for Caleb. The box was empty. Not low. Empty. No junk mail, no grocery flyers, nothing. Emily came down the drive with her mug cupped in both hands. "You expecting anything?" she asked. "Yeah. A lot." She bit her lip. I heard the mail truck stop across the street and then, "Just keep going." I went inside, sat at the kitchen table, and called the local post office. After several transfers, a tired woman finally answered my questions. "According to our system," she said, "there's an active forwarding order on your address. Everything's being redirected to the Silver Horizon Estates HOA office." My pulse stumbled. "I didn't file that," I said. "Cancel it. Now." "We can flag it," she replied carefully. "But you'll need to come in person and submit a report." I thanked her, hung up, and realized my hands were shaking. It hit me then. She was coming at us sideways. Quietly. Strategically. Just enough interference to dig under our skin, not enough to make it criminal on paper. I stepped onto the porch again. The morning sun painted the hill in gold. By all appearances, it was a perfect day. The air felt wrong. "Lucas," Emily said softly, joining me. "She's not going to stop, is she?" I shook my head. "No. I don't think she's even started." The next morning I woke to the heavy rumble of engines. Not a UPS truck. Not a neighbor's tractor. This was deeper, harsher. By the time I reached the front door, my gut already knew. 2 concrete barriers the size of small cars sat across my driveway, bumper to bumper. Thick gray blocks like you see closing off highways during construction. Spray painted in wet, bright orange across both. No trespassing HOA access, only I walked up to them slowly, one hand out as if they might be an illusion I could push through. The paint was still tacky. Orange dust smeared my fingers. Behind me, the screen creaked. Emily stepped out, robe pulled tight around her, bare feet on cool wood. "Oh my God," she whispered. For reasons I couldn't name, shame flushed through me, like I'd failed to shield her, failed Caleb, failed our home before the real fight even started. "What is she doing?" Emily asked quietly. "What is she trying to prove?" "She wants us to believe she's in control," I said. Anger gathered low and hot in my chest. My grandfather's voice floated up in my mind. "Never let fury move first. Logic has more leverage." I pulled my phone out and hit record. No drama. No shouting. Just a calm narration as I walked around the barriers. "This is my driveway," I said clearly. "These blocks were placed here without my permission. This is unauthorized obstruction by the Silver Horizon Estates HOA." Emily stayed behind me, out of frame, but close enough that I could feel her presence like a weight at my back. When I finished recording, I called a towing company. The dispatcher hesitated when I explained. "This some kind of HOA dispute?" she asked. "Yes, but these barriers are on my property. I want them gone." "We can send a truck," she said. "But you'll need to sign all liability waivers." "I'll sign whatever you've got." Took nearly an hour. When the tow truck finally groaned up the hill, the driver climbed out. Late 50s, heavy mustache, eyes that had seen too much nonsense and weren't surprised by any of it. He studied the blocks, then looked at me. "All right," he said, slapping the side of his truck. "Let's get these damn things out of your way." I filmed as he wrapped chains around the first barrier and eased it back. Concrete scraped across gravel with a sound like someone dragging a tombstone. The whole time, my eyes flicked to the road, half expecting a white Audi to appear. Didn't. Not then. We rolled the blocks down the hill and left them on public land by the roadway, the only place they could legally sit. By the time the tow truck pulled away, I had nearly 20 minutes of video. I uploaded it to my social media account. No rant, no long caption. Just, this is what happens when an HOA thinks it owns your land. I figured a few friends would comment, say it was crazy, maybe offer advice. In an hour, it had 5,000 views. By lunch, 20,000. By evening, 50,000. Comments poured in. This is nuts. They can't do that. Name and shame the HOA. Lawyer up now. Document everything. For the first time since this started, I didn't feel completely isolated. Emily watched the views climb over my shoulder. She wasn't big on social media, but she understood the power of numbers. You think this will help? She asked. I don't know, I said truthfully, but at least people are seeing it. She squeezed my arm. Good, because I don't think she's finished. I looked down the hill at the winding road. No, I said quietly. She's just warming up. By the end of the week, I'd learned something. Silence out here was never actually silent, even when the wind paused, even when the boards stopped creaking, even when the birds went quiet. There was always a hum in the background, like the distant charge of a storm. The storm walked up to my fence line one evening wearing a gray hoodie. I was on the porch, staring out over the wrecked hedges and scarred lawn, turning everything over in my mind. The barriers, the sign on the tree, the stolen mail, the headlights at night. I noticed the figure by the mailbox before I saw the face. Just standing there, not coming up, not leaving. Can I help you? I called. The person stepped forward, hands lifted slightly in a non-threatening way. Young, late 20s maybe, tired eyes, a guilty set to his shoulders. Mr. Wright? Lucas Wright? He asked. Yes, I said carefully. Who are you? He pushed his hood back. Ethan, he answered. Technically Ethan from the HOA. But I'm not here for them. I didn't say anything. I just waited. He glanced around, scanning the trees like he expected someone to be listening. Can we talk somewhere a little less exposed? He asked. I hesitated, then nodded toward the porch. We sat. He placed a small USB drive on the table between us as if it were fragile explosive. I need to get something off my chest, he said, before she drags more people into this. By she, I said. You mean Karen? He nodded quickly. Yes, Mrs. Aldrich, Karen, whatever she's calling herself these days. He took a breath. I didn't sign up for this. I took the HOA job because I needed steady hours. Patching sidewalks, checking storm drains, walking dogs for older residents. Nothing glamorous, but honest. He rubbed his palms together, eyes distant. Karen wasn't always like this. Not at first. Then the power got to her. The authority. When she got it into her head that we could expand the jurisdiction. He shook his head. Everything changed. Tell me, I said. Exactly. She had us sign off on a new boundary map, Ethan said. One she drew. Not the county. Not the developers. Her. She said it was necessary for order and community integrity. When I hesitated, she threatened to write me up for insubordination and told me she had the board wrapped around her finger. Said if I didn't sign, I'd never work in property management again. Emily came quietly onto the porch, Caleb's blanket around her shoulders. She didn't interrupt, just listened. That USB? Ethan said, nudging it toward me. It's got emails, the map file, and a recording. Recording of what? Emily asked softly. A closed-door board meeting from last week, he said. I wasn't supposed to hear it. I left my phone charging in the meeting room. It recorded everything. He swallowed. You need to listen to it, but not around your son. She wasn't just trying to make you miserable. She was planning to bury you alive in violations. Her exact words were, He shut his eyes for a second, then opened them again. If the law won't handle him, we'll bury him under a mountain of citations until he begs to leave. Emily inhaled sharply. I picked up the USB. It was light, cold, inconspicuous, and suddenly the most important object in my pocket. Ethan slumped back. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I didn't understand how far she'd go until I heard that meeting. But when I saw the concrete barriers, when I heard about the mail, he shook his head. I knew she wouldn't stop. He stood, shoving his hands into his pockets. I can't work for her anymore. I can't stay quiet either. I don't want to help destroy anyone's home. I rose with him. You did the right thing coming here, Ethan. He nodded once and stepped off the porch. Be careful, Mr. Wright, he said over his shoulder. Karen doesn't think she's playing a game. She thinks she's protecting order. And she'll do anything to keep that illusion. Then he disappeared into the dusk. I curled my hand around the USB drive and felt that little piece of plastic turn into a loaded weapon. Whatever happened after this, it wasn't just about fences and bylaws anymore. It was about exposing something someone powerful had gone to great lengths to hide. I don't remember the exact second I woke up the next morning. I remember the sound. Chainsaws, plural. Not the faint buzz of someone trimming a limb. The brutal, ripping roar of 3 or 4 saws chewing through something heavy. Close. Emily bolted upright beside me, clutching the blanket. What is that? She whispered. I already knew. I was at the front door before my feet had fully found the floor. The sight outside hit me like a punch. Men in neon work vests were scattered across my yard like an invading crew. One was cutting straight through the lilac hedge my uncle had planted 30 years ago. Another was prying out the pathway lights with a shovel, flinging them aside like weeds. A pair stood beside a white pickup plastered with Silver Horizon Improvement Team decals. HOA branding. Official looking. Manufactured authority. I took the porch steps so fast I nearly missed one. Get off my property, I shouted. The chainsaws drowned me out for a second. Then one man lifted his visor. HOA renovation order, he yelled back. We're bringing the property up to community standards. This property isn't in your community, I yelled. We were told it is, he said. And we were told we have permission. Permission from who? He pointed behind me. I turned. Karen stood by a black Lexus, hands clasped behind her back, surveying my yard like it was a construction site she'd just acquired. Large sunglasses, another blazer, that cool, thin smile. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Good morning, Mr. Wright, she called. I hope you're ready for your upgrades. Upgrades, I repeated, stunned. You're destroying my property. We're correcting nonconformities, she replied pleasantly. The board approved light gray paint for the porch, and we're redoing the lawn for HOA-compliant turf. Think of it as an investment. You forged documents. You redrew boundaries. You messed with my mail. Allegedly, she cut in. You keep forgetting that word. Behind me, I heard a sharp crack. I spun around just as the old garden gazebo, one of the last things my uncle built, collapsed in a tangle of beams. 2 workers stepped back, saws idling in their hands. Emily screamed from the porch. Lucas! They're coming toward the house. Caleb stood behind her, clutching the back of her shirt, frozen in silent terror. Something inside me snapped taut. I lunged toward the yard, but the 2 compliance officers from the first day stepped in front of me. One rested his hand near something on his belt. Not a firearm, but something designed to intimidate. Sir, step back, he said. The HOA has temporary oversight. Temporary what? Karen answered in that clipped, cheerful tone she used for lies. Emergency community integrity provisions, she said. We're allowed to take corrective action while we review your suitability. Suitability, like we were applicants for her kingdom. Lucas, Emily cried. Call the police, please. I did. It took 20 minutes for the cruisers to arrive. The workers kept going until the sirens became audible. Only then did they slow. When the deputies got out and took in the scene, I saw their expressions change. not to outrage but to weary familiarity. "Everyone stop," the older one ordered. The men with chainsaws killed the engines. The sudden silence felt violent. The deputy walked slowly across the yard, eyes tracking the stumps of the hedge, the splintered gazebo, the torn-up walkway. He turned to Karen. "Ma'am, do you have any legal authorization for this?" She held up her ever-present binder. "As I explained, this property falls under, and as we explained previously," he interrupted, "HOA guidelines do not override county zoning." "Then file a notice," Karen snapped. "Until the dispute is resolved, we are maintaining community standards." He sighed, all the fight drained out of it. Then he looked at me. "Mr. Wright," he said, quieter now, "we'll take statements and document everything, but this is still a civil dispute. We can't arrest anyone until a judge rules." "Civil?" Emily's voice shook. "They nearly cut into the porch. They terrified our son." The younger deputy nodded, sympathy in his eyes. "We'll write it up, but you'll need to go through the courts." Karen's smile returned, thin and poisonous. The workers began packing up. No apologies, no shame, just laborers doing what the person signing their checks told them to do. When the trucks left, all that remained was churned soil, sawdust, shattered wood. Emily's shoulders shook. Caleb buried his face in her side. I knelt beside them. "It's okay," I said, though nothing was. "I'm here. I'm not letting her get away with this." Standing, I looked at the ruins of the gazebo in the morning light. "This," I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else, "is war." The hours after the renovation felt thick and slow, like wading through mud. Emily refused to let Caleb outside. She kept him in the living room with cartoons and board games, deflecting his questions with answers that didn't tell him much but sounded safe. I walked the yard again, slower this time, filming every detail. Not for social media now, for evidence. The police's favorite phrase, "civil matter," played on a loop in my head. Karen was using it like a shield. If she hid behind a shield, I needed a bigger one. I was halfway down the drive when Emily appeared on the porch again. Her eyes were dry now, but the fear was sharper. "Lucas," she said quietly, "someone's at the driveway." A silver sedan sat just outside the fence. Not glossy, not flashy, just there. A man sat behind the wheel. Not Karen. Not one of the compliance officers. Someone I didn't know. "Stay inside," I told Emily. I walked halfway down, enough to show I wasn't cowed but not close enough for comfort. The man rolled his window down. "Mr. Wright?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Who are you?" "Ron," he answered. "I live 2 streets over." He looked genuinely uneasy, eyes flicking from me to the damage and back. "I saw the trucks," he said. "People talk. But even if they didn't, you can't run a chainsaw crew through someone's yard without the whole neighborhood hearing." "What do you want?" I asked. He exhaled. "I wanted to warn you. Karen isn't stupid. She's dangerous. She's been trying to push the boundaries of that HOA for years. Most people are too scared to fight her." He glanced at the wreckage of the gazebo. "And now she's made you her project." "You're saying she's done this before?" I asked. "Not exactly this," Ron said, "but close. Harassing people. Fake citations. Emergency powers she made up. She loves control. And she hates being told no." He put the car in gear. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "She's got people who watch the blocks." "Does she know you're talking to me?" I asked. "Oh, she'll find out," he said with a bitter half-smile. "She always does." He pulled away. Emily came down a step. "What did he want?" "A warning," I said. "And I think we should take it seriously." She hugged herself, looking out over the wreckage. "Lucas, I don't feel safe here anymore." I looked back at her, at the fear in her eyes. It wasn't about hedges or gazebos. It was about Caleb. About being hunted on land that was supposed to be ours. That's when I called the sheriff's office again. A different pair of deputies came this time. "Officers," I said as they walked up, "I need to file a report." This, I swept my hand across the yard, is intentional destruction of private property. The younger one whistled softly. That's bad. Bad, I snapped. This is criminal. The older deputy opened his notebook. We can document the damage, he said. Take photos. Make a report. And then what? I asked. He chose his words with care. Then it'll go to civil court. I stared at him. Civil court? They trespassed. They ripped up my yard. They took down a structure. You'll be able to present all of that to a judge, he said. For damages. Behind him, Emily held Caleb, arms tight around him. He watched the adults silently with enormous eyes. A line inside me hardened. So you're telling me, I said quietly, that if they come back again, if they step onto my land with chainsaws or whatever, and as long as they don't physically hurt us, there's nothing you can do? He didn't answer for a long moment. Unless there's a direct threat to safety, he finally said. We're limited. Karen had found the gap in the system and walked right through it. The deputies finished their photos and left. The yard was quiet again, but it didn't feel peaceful. Emily put a trembling hand on my arm. What do we do now? I looked at the broken boards, the torn hedges, the stumps of my uncle's lilacs. We fight, I said. Not with them. With a lawyer. My fingers brushed the pocket where the USB rested. It was time to use it. I barely slept that night. Neither did Emily. Every creak sounded like a footstep. Every gust of wind like a vehicle on gravel. Caleb woke twice crying, tangled in blankets. Bad dreams. Around 5, after another hour of staring at the ceiling, I swung my legs out of bed. I'd already seen the same name come up again and again online after I posted the barrier video. Graham Lockwood. Former prosecutor. Now a property rights attorney. Known for his calm manner in person and his ferocity in court. By 8, I was sitting in his office. He wasn't what I expected. Tall but not looming. Gray hair, glasses. He looked more like someone's patient uncle than a courtroom shark. Mr. Wright, he said, standing to shake my hand. I read your email this morning. Before we start, I want to say I'm sorry you and your family are going through this. It was the first time in days anyone had spoken to me with unfiltered empathy. Thank you, I said. I'm not entirely sure where to begin. Start at the beginning, he said gently. I'll stop you when I need details. So I did. I told him about the first day. About the Audi, the fake boundary claims, the first police visit. The sign in the trees, the diverted mail, the concrete blocks, the viral video, the chainsaws, the gazebo collapse, the resignation in the deputy's eyes. And then I told him about Ethan, the emails, the doctored map, the recording. When I finished, Graham leaned back slowly, hands steepled. Mr. Wright, he said, I'm going to be blunt. Please, I said. This isn't an HOA dispute, he said quietly. This is targeted harassment. There are elements of conspiracy. There's probable fraud. And from what I'm hearing, the civil side is only half of it. My throat felt tight. So, what do? We build a case she can't wriggle out of, he said. He pulled a yellow pad toward himself. You brought the USB? I handed it over. He plugged it into his computer and opened the first folder. There were emails. Dozens. We need to increase pressure. He'll fold eventually. We can control the narrative. Start citing violations the moment the fence goes up. Make it so miserable he begs to leave. He opened the map file next. Zoomed in. Checked the metadata. Created on a personal machine, he muttered. Not a government system. Timestamps don't match any county updates. No official submission trail. Poor formatting. He shook his head. Arrogant and sloppy. That's a helpful combination. Finally, he opened the audio file. It was like being in the room. The scrape of chairs. Low voices. Then Karen. He's a threat to order. If the law won't handle him, we'll bury him under a mountain of violations until he begs to leave. Graham paused the playback and removed his glasses, fixing me with a level gaze. That, he said, is what we call malicious intent. Is it enough? I asked. For an injunction? He said. More than enough. For damages? Substantial. For criminal review. He shrugged lightly. That will be up to the prosecutor. But if they're awake at the wheel, yes. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. So what happens next? I asked. Step 1, he said, ticking off with his pen. We file for an emergency injunction. That stops the HOA from stepping foot on your property. No inspections, no upgrades, nothing. Step 2, we file a civil suit. We go after her and, to a degree, the HOA for fraud, trespass, property destruction, interference with male, emotional distress, especially given there's a child in the home. At the word child, something twisted inside my chest. He continued. Step 3, we take that recording and the forged map to the county prosecutor. What she's done goes well beyond overreach. And step 4, he said, we keep doing what you're already doing. You said your video went viral? Yeah, I said. It blew up faster than I expected. Good, he said. Public scrutiny matters. Judges read headlines. Prosecutors don't like looking foolish. Sunlight is a very effective disinfectant. He slid a stack of papers toward me. I'm not going to pretend this will be quick or painless. She will fight. She will get nastier before she stops. But if you're willing to stand your ground, you won't be standing alone. For the first time since Karen's Audi blocked my drive, I felt something like real relief. I gripped his hand. Thank you. You'll really thank me, he said mildly. When she's standing in front of a judge wondering how her little empire fell apart. Now, he added, stacking the documents. Go home. Be with your wife and son. I'll start filing. I walked out of his office lighter than I'd gone in. I still didn't know how explosive things were about to get. Because Karen wasn't done. Not yet. The county courthouse was unimpressive from the outside. A brick shell with too few parking spots. Inside, the air felt dense. There's a certain heaviness in courtrooms. Not fear exactly. Just the collective weight of people waiting to be judged. Emily walked beside me, fingers laced through mine. Her grip was strong, but her hand trembled. Caleb was with her sister. There was no way I was bringing him into this. Graham moved ahead of us, calm and steady. Across the room at the defense table sat Karen. White suit, perfect posture, hands folded with practiced serenity. She looked like she believed she was the one presiding. She didn't glare, didn't scowl, just watched us with a faint, amused curve to her mouth. Judge Beatrice London entered, and the bailiff called for order. The room stilled. The judge had the presence of someone who didn't need to raise her voice to be obeyed. She took her seat, glanced over her notes, then looked up. Let's begin, she said. Graham rose first. Your Honor, he began. This case is about far more than a disputed boundary. It concerns falsified records, harassment, property destruction, and a sustained, coordinated effort to force my clients from their home. Karen's attorney popped to his feet to object. The judge lifted a hand, silencing him, and nodded at Graham to continue. He clicked a remote. Projector blinked on. The official county zoning map appeared on the screen. Clean lines, color-coded sections. Our property, clearly outside any HOA boundary. This, Graham said, is the county-approved parcel map. Click. Karen's map filled the screen. The lines were cruder, as if someone had drawn them on a tablet without zooming in enough. Her HOA bubble magically extended to swallow our land. The committee stamp in the corner didn't match any official design. Metadata in the corner showed file creation by K. Aldrich. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Aldrich, she said, did you create this document? Karen lifted her chin. That is a board-issued boundary update. As president, my approval is, I asked, the judge said, voice cooling. If you created it. Karen hesitated. Before she could answer, Graham pulled up server logs from the county zoning office. No record of any boundary request. No approvals. Nothing. The judge's expression tightened. Then came the emails. We need to increase pressure. He'll fold eventually. We can control the narrative. Start citing violations the moment his fence goes up. Make living there unbearable. The judge read them silently as they appeared. The room shifted. You could feel people trading looks, feel the slow pivot of opinion. Karen's lawyer objected again. Overruled. Finally, Graham opened the audio file. Karen's voice filled the speakers, clear and unmistakable. He's a threat to order. If the law won't handle him, we'll bury him under a mountain of violations until he begs to leave. Silence settled over the room like a dropped curtain. Karen shot to her feet. That was a private meeting, she snapped, taken wildly out of context. This is... Sit down, Judge London said. Karen sat. Her certainty had cracks. Next came the photos and video, the mail forwarding notice, the laminated sign on my tree, the car idling at the edge of our property at night, the concrete barriers, the shredded hedge, the gazebo collapse, the yard mid-destruction while chainsaws screamed and workers yelled about upgrades. The live stream footage played on the screen, my voice and Emily's audible in the background. Caleb's cries muffled from inside. Emily's hand sought mine and gripped hard. When it ended, the judge leaned back, eyes closed for a long beat, then opened them. Mrs. Aldridge, she said, her tone very controlled. Did you at any point believe you had legal authority to expand your HOA's boundaries onto land clearly outside the recorded development? Karen straightened. Yes, she said. Absolutely. I was preserving community standards. The judge's eyes sharpened. That, she said, is the most alarming statement I've heard in this courtroom all year. Karen's composure faltered at last. The ruling came down like a hammer. The court finds, Judge London said, that Karen Aldridge is liable for willful fraud, falsification of documents, property destruction, mail tampering, conspiracy, and abuse of authority. Karen's eyes went wide. Effective immediately, the judge continued. The Silver Horizon Estates HOA is placed under temporary receivership. All board activity is suspended pending a full audit. She glanced at the damages summary Graham had submitted. Compensatory damages awarded to the Wright family, $1,200,000. I didn't move. Emily clapped a hand over her mouth. The judge wasn't finished. Mrs. Aldridge, she said, turning her full attention back to Karen. You are remanded into custody pending criminal review. Karen stumbled to her feet. You can't do this, she protested, voice cracking. I was protecting the community. I was preserving standards. The bailiff stepped behind her and cuffed her wrists. I was protecting order, she choked as they led her toward the side door. Closed behind her with a soft, final click. The entire room exhaled. Graham put a hand on my shoulder. It's done, he said quietly. You got your life back. Even as relief washed through me, I knew he was only half right. We'd won in court, but we still had to rebuild the home she'd tried to break. The house felt different after the verdict. Not quieter, not louder, just lighter, like it was no longer tensed against an impact. The next morning, Emily and I stood on the porch with mugs cooling in our hands. The sun slid over the ridge, casting the same warm light it had that first day. Only now, there were no cars at the edge of the road. No laminated signs. No one waiting to claim our land. Caleb padded outside in his pajamas, hair sticking up. Dad? He asked, still sleepy? Is she gone? I crouched down and put a hand on his shoulder. Yeah, buddy. She's gone. He didn't ask more. Kids don't need long explanations. They feel tension like pressure in the air. Emily pulled him into a hug. We're safe now, she whispered, and for the first time in weeks she sounded like she truly believed it. By mid-morning, contractors began to arrive, real ones. Graham had recommended them. No fake branding, no flimsy decals. Just working trucks and men with steady movements. A broad man named Marco knelt beside the shredded lilac hedge, brushing dirt from one of the older roots. This thing's been here a while, he said. It was my uncle's, I answered. Marco nodded. We'll bring it back. He didn't say it like comfort. He said it like a binding promise. For the next week, the property slowly knit itself back together. New shrubs in place of the destroyed hedge. Fresh wiring for path lights. Stronger beams for a rebuilt gazebo. Emily picked the new porch color, a deep ocean blue. It looks like calm after a storm, she said. The septic system, which the improvement team had run heavy equipment over, got dug up and replaced properly. Every nail, every board, felt like we were reclaiming ground she tried to take. One afternoon, while I was fighting with a stubborn garden hose, a familiar car pulled into the drive. Ethan climbed out, clipboard in hand, wearing no HOA logo, just a plain shirt. He looked older than he had a month before, not by years but by weight. "Hey, Mr. Wright," he said. "Lucas," I corrected automatically. He smiled. "Lucas, I'm with the oversight team now, the court-appointed one." Emily came out and waved. He returned it, then looked around. "It's bad," he said quietly. "What we found in the books. Old complaints. Fines that never should have existed. Stuff she hid from everyone, even the board." He scanned the repaired gazebo. "She scared a lot of people into silence. You weren't the first target. You were just the loudest one who fought back." He handed me a sheaf of papers. New draft HOA rules, simple. Trash pickup, common area maintenance. No boundary expansions. No emergency powers. No surprise citations. "The way it should be," he said. I flipped through them and nodded. "Thank you. You helped all of us," Ethan said. "Even the ones who'll never say it out loud." Then he left, his shoulders a little less hunched than when he'd arrived. A few days later, the local paper ran a feature on the case. Then a TV station called. Then websites that specialized in insane HOA stories picked up the ruling. The articles only used my initials. That was Graham's doing. Karen's full name, though, was everywhere. People read about the forged map, the harassment, the courtroom audio. And as everything unraveled publicly, another layer emerged. Her psychological evaluation. It came out that she'd lost her adult son in a hit-and-run years earlier. The accident happened in a neighborhood with no HOA, no cameras, no patrols. No one was ever caught. The word that repeated throughout the report was order. She believed order would have saved him. She believed order could prevent chaos. She believed order was the only way to stop the world from hurting her again. I read the evaluation twice, sitting at the kitchen table. Emily read it once and set it down gently. "Do you feel sorry for her?" she asked. I thought about it. "I understand her," I said finally. "But understanding isn't forgiveness." Emily nodded and leaned her head on my shoulder. Outside, the new hedges rustled in the wind. During the next week, neighbors started dropping by. Some came with casseroles or bottles of wine. Others just came with stories and apologies they didn't owe us. An older couple from down the road brought a handwritten card that simply read, "Thank you for standing up. We were scared to." Kept that card. Under court supervision, the HOA shrank, then reformed. Board members resigned. Others stepped up. The charter was rewritten, stripping out the authoritarian nonsense. It went back to what it should have always been. A group of neighbors figuring out trash pickup and landscaping, not a private regime. When the last contractor truck rumbled away, the land felt whole again. Not restored to what it had been. Better. Protected by paper, precedent, and our refusal to step aside. One evening, Emily and I sat side by side on the new porch swing, gently rocking as the sky turned orange, then purple. Caleb ran in the yard, chasing fireflies with a jar, laughing like he'd forgotten about chainsaws and barriers. "I haven't heard him laugh like that in weeks," Emily said softly. "Me neither," I said. Crickets started their chorus. The wind moved through the pines. For the first time since we arrived, the calm felt real. "This is home now," she said. She was right. A year slipped past without my really noticing. Time after a long fight doesn't rush or crawl. It just moves, quiet and steady, filling in the cracks. The property looked different. Not just fixed, claimed. We'd put up a new gate at the bottom of the drive a month earlier. Wrought iron, sturdy, with brass accents that caught the afternoon sun in a way that made the gravel glow. Emily said it was a bit dramatic. I liked it. Felt like a line drawn in metal. Across the top, in firm, clean lettering, private property no HOA. No nonsense. Emily raised an eyebrow when I proposed the wording. That's the polite version, I told her. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Sometimes in the evenings, when the cicadas hummed and the air smelled of cedar and cut grass, I'd walk down just to look at it, to look at the quiet road beyond, to look at the curve of the hill that had once framed a white Audi and now framed nothing more threatening than the mail truck. Behind me, the house had changed too. The hedges had taken root, filling out with new leaves. The walkway curved past low garden lights we'd chosen together. Caleb's rebuilt swing set, courtesy of a neighbor who used to be a carpenter, stood solid and level, squeaking only when the wind pushed it. Life flowed around the scars. Every now and then the paper called, asking if I had a comment about follow-up investigations into Silver Horizon Estates or the federal audit that had found creative bookkeeping on Karen's part. Community funds turned into personal expenses, trips, and decor. Most of the time, I let those calls go to voicemail. We hadn't fought all this to become a headline. We'd fought so we could sit on our own porch and listen to the wind in the trees. One weekend, Emily said, "We should have people over. Not a statement, just a barbecue. Neighbors." So we did. We cleaned the grill, strung a few extra lights along the fence, dragged out old benches from the shed. People came. Marco arrived with a tray of sausages. The older couple from down the road brought warm bread wrapped in a dish towel. A few of the new HOA board members showed up, not in polos or with clipboards, just in jeans carrying dessert. Ethan came later, parking at the bottom of the drive and walking up with a bowl in his hands. "Potato salad," he said. "There's never enough at these things." I laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. "I'm glad you're here." He looked around, at the repaired gazebo, at the kids tearing across the lawn, at Emily at the grill, laughing with a neighbor. "You know," he said, "I didn't know how this would end, but seeing all this," he nodded toward the house, "feels right." As the sun drained away, the air cooled and the yard filled with low conversation and clinking plates. Caleb ran in circles with two other kids, cheeks flushed, hair wild, laughter bright. He eventually stumbled over, climbed into my lap, and sagged against my chest. "Dad," he mumbled, half asleep, "are we going to stay here forever?" I looked over the land, our land, the gate at the bottom of the hill, the clean paint on the porch, the blue gazebo, the lights glowing warm along the path. "Yeah, buddy," I said, "we're staying." People drifted off as the stars came out. I walked a few of them down to the gate and stood there a moment after they left, hand resting on the iron. The road beyond was empty. No Audi, no watching cars, no illegal barriers, just asphalt, trees, and darkness. When I turned back, the porch lights cast a steady glow across the yard. Inside, Emily was collecting plates. Caleb was passed out sideways on the couch, one arm flung over his face. I stepped in and closed the door, not in fear, not as defense, just the simple way a man shuts the door of his own home at the end of a good day. Our home, our land, our life. The storm was over. The fight was behind us. And now, finally, we could do the most ordinary, powerful thing there is. We could live.